Hello friends, I am back much quicker than I usually am, and I am here with my promised video of all the books I read in May, but with the catch of all the books I read in May were sapphic. I realized recently that most of my books that I read are about gay men, queer men, and my sapphic to MLM ratio was so far off, and I really wanted to rectify that. So I decided that I was going to do nothing but read sapphic books in the month of May. And I had such a good time doing this. I thought it was such a good challenge. I am usually a series girly. I read a lot of series. I don't read that many one-off books, or if I do, they're kind of spaced between. But all of these books were one-off books, or they're like the first book in a series where like the others aren't connected to it or whatever. So these are all like mostly one-off books. They kind of range over a few different genres, and I got to touch in places that I don't typically read many books in. And yeah, so I thought I would go over all the books that I read, what I thought about them, what their themes were, what they were about, whatever. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. I will tell you sort of like what I enjoyed about it, what I didn't enjoy about them, and sort of the baseline sort of plot so you can decide if you want to read it or not. I read 10 and a half books in May, I believe, or was it 9.5 books? It's either 9.5 or 10.5. I'm currently halfway through a novella, and I will tell you about it when we get to the end. I feel like I've read enough to be able to talk about it. But yeah, I've got a hefty little pile. And as I said last time, I never write notes and I never remember the books that I read. But this time, I got like extremely carried away. I have 9 pages worth of notes. So, and also just to let you know, I am streaming this over on Patreon. So if you are interested in sitting down and enjoying this with me, like in live time, real time, whatever, then you can do that. I do them sometimes over on Patreon at patreon.com/savvycat, or you can click the link in the description. So let's get into the books that I read. Sapphic May started off with This Dark Heart by Zina Gosrani, and I saw this in Waterstones. It was kind of just like sitting on the table, I think, or maybe it was like face out. I don't remember, but I picked it up and I was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. It's based in India and has like Indian folklore in it, and I've never read any like Indian books or books based in Indian folklore. I know very little about that, and so it really intrigued me. And I went on to Goodreads, and it has like 36 reviews, and I've never seen a book with so few reviews, and I was so confused by it. I wasn't even there right as it came out either. Like, it came out last year, and I'm so confused by it. So like, go give it some love. I haven't even told you what it's about yet, but like, this is the book, and she does deserve much more than her 36 reviews. But anyway, I'll get into telling you a little bit about it and what my thoughts were. So this book is set in India with ties to Indian folklore, as I said, and basically a kingdom is threatened by murderous demons that can only be killed while they are possessing a human body. So they possess human bodies and then like feed off of other humans, like flesh and whatever, which is fun. Great. We love that. And they cannot be killed in their like shadow form. They can only be killed when they are possessing a human body. Only mages can keep them at bay. They can't kill them, but they can like scare them off, keep them away or whatever. Until one night, Princess Thea, the lead character in this book, seems to kill one when it is attacking her father. After this event happens, she goes to find comfort in her friend, Amara, whom she is in a relationship with, which is obviously a secret because, you know, we can't be having queer people. That's not allowed. We're hush-hushing. But they are caught together, and because they are caught together, Amara's father arranges for her to be married, like, immediately. She is of marriageable age, and now she is being sent to get married immediately to keep these two apart and to set her on a separate life. Then Thea is approached by a mage, this man, who tells her that the person Amara is being married to has ill intentions. He doesn't actually want to marry her, he just wants to use her. And so Thea sets out with this guy and her brother across the country to go and save Amara. And along the way, Thea is figuring out how to use her power. She's figuring out what it is and how to use it. And she is afraid of this power because this power is light and it is dark. And you have to like make that choice and overcome fear and sort of figure out who you are and feel confident in that. She has this struggle with herself over like power and good and evil. And she is just on this mission to go and save the girl that she loves. And she just wants to have a happy, safe life with her. It shows this relationship she has with her brother and this other guy that I can't remember his name right now. And it's just, yeah, it's a bit of a quest. It's a bit of a journey. As I said, yeah, I've not read any books with Indian folklore before, so I found this quite interesting. I'm really interested in Indian culture. It was something that I was really interested in as a kid, and it's something that I think I'm still quite interested in, but we don't see very many books about it, so I was really glad to have this and to read a bit more about it. There's such good potential to have really good like found family vibes in this book, and I think that they just were not met. I think that found family is like one of the best things you can have in a book, and I feel like it was so close to being there, but it just wasn't quite there. It could be that there wasn't enough time. I don't know. I think that it was a pretty good book, but I don't like love it. I do think people should read it because I think it was interesting and I think it does deserve more love than it has. But for me, it was like a 3.5. It was good, but it wasn't fantastic, and I think that more could have been done. After I read This Dark Heart, the next book I read was Faebound by Sarah Arifi. I bought this book like a year and a half ago, and it has just been sitting on my shelf for a really long time, and so I was really glad to have this sapphic month as an opportunity to actually pick it up and read it. I don't know why I've been putting it off for so long. This is a romantasy book. It's got fae, obviously, and magic, and it also has some found family sort of vibes. And it is centered around these two sisters. It is dual POV, switching between two sisters, and we all know how much I love a good dual POV, especially if it's like a third person dual POV. And basically this book is, long ago, the three gods decided to create life. The sun god created fae, which have the magical gift of bonding with this cat-like animal in which they can share their light magic. The earth god created humans with the gift to communicate with the earth and the trees and such. And the moon god created elves who have the gift of foresight. And a millennia ago, there was only one human left and then a small amount of fae. And the last human, because they were at war with the fae, cursed the fae to be like forced underground and live the rest of their days out underground. And then the last human obviously died. And so then it was just the elves left, and they are like fighting each other for resources, and they only have like the fae and the human as like cautionary tales. But they've been fighting a war over resources for the past like 1,000 years, to the point where it's called the Forever War. And one day the main character, Yiden, is exiled. She works in the war. She is like a higher up in the war. And she dedicates her entire life to this war and to fighting. It is all that she has ever known. It is what she prides herself on and how she views the entire world and like life from the point of view of war and fighting. And she was exiled, and she wants to do something that will get her granted access back into the elf space that I don't remember the name of right now. Oh my god, I wrote notes and I didn't write down names because I'm an idiot. But she finds this war really important, and she's like very on the side of it because she grew up like hungry and starving, and like she wants the resources so that no other people have to grow up starving. And her sister does not believe in the war. She does not like the war. And when she's exiled, her sister goes out to find her along with Yiden's like best friend. They go out and find her. And then they kill one of the cat-like magical animals, and it turns out that was a prince. Whoopsies. So now they're being taken captive by the Fae. They find out the Fae are real and they're still around, and it's a whole big deal. And then they're taken prisoner into the Fae land and start learning more about them and their culture. And it's all very like massive because they didn't even think that Fae existed anymore. They learn that, you know, these Fae have been cursed to be underground and they can't leave. They're like trapped here. Only a few people can leave. But if they go too far, then the magic starts to fade and everything starts falling apart. This book frustrated me a lot to begin with, because Yiden focused so much on war, and like I get it, I understand, she grew up with war, it's all she's ever known, but it like did really piss me off how like that was everything that she believed in, and every time she like thought about something or saw something, she was like, oh, I should bring the war here, oh, we should kill people for this. And like I understand that's a product of her upbringing and her environment, and I get how she gets here, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't piss me the fuck off, you know? Like I know that it was intentional, but I still found it frustrating. And even throughout this entire thing, you know, the longer they stay, the more they fall in love with like the place and the culture and the people, and like emotions are brewing, and she starts falling in love with one of the fae, obviously. Not spoilers, because it's very obvious that that was going to happen, but she still very much has the mindset of like stealing their resources. It just pissed me off. I found the pacing of this book really weird. Like the relationships formed and changed too quickly. For me, like there was not as much development as I would have liked to see between them, like both their individual growth and also their growth as people together. Like I feel like there needed to be more depth to that, especially with Yiden and her love interest. I feel like I was missing a lot of depth and connection, and it just moved way too quickly. This is a dual path, as I said, and the other perspective is her sister, and her sister's POV is a heterosexual romance. It's a straight romance, and that was more compelling to me. It still didn't go exactly as deep as I would have liked it to, but like I found their relationship a bit more compelling, which was upsetting because I read this for sapphic May, and I cared a lot more about the straight couple than I did about the sapphic couple. I do personally only rate it about 3. There is a second one. I did buy the second one. I will be reading it, but I like don't feel in a hurry to do it. I think that it's romantasy, and I enjoy romantasy sometimes, but it's like not really my thing, you know? So, but if you're into romantasy and you want a sapphic romantasy, give this one a go. There's not very many sapphic romances, is there? The next book I read was Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall, who is a non-binary author. This is another romance fantasy, but it's not a romantasy. It is set in 1814 in Wales and England, and it's narrated by a hobgoblin, which I found really, really interesting. I've not really ever read any books that have narrators and aren't just like third person or first person. It's like this book is being told by a hobgoblin. He like collects stories. So it starts off by being like, hey, so I followed this woman around and just I'm here to tell her story. It's like I turned into the smoke so I could better pay attention to the conversation. And he's like every now and then speaking about where he is and what he's doing to try to get more information. And sometimes it's kind of like, I am not going to disclose what happened next because I want to keep you interested in the story. And I found that really interesting. It took me a minute to get into it because I was so thrown off and I'm like, this is so weird and not what I'm used to. But I kind of vibed with it. I kind of really liked it in the end. I thought it was really quirky and fun. But yeah, basically it is set in 1814 in Wales and in England, and this hobgoblin sees a young woman, Mayless, and he saw her face misfortune at a ball. Her dress is like coming apart and she goes out to the garden, she hides and she starts crying because her dress is falling apart. And then this woman comes out and she goes to help Mayless, and she offers her cloak and then takes her out and like gives her a lift home in her horse-drawn carriage, etc. And this woman has previously been accused of witchcraft because her father and her brothers died, which left their entire estate to her. And so now she is known as a duke, and that's like not socially acceptable. It's kind of being used as like an insult to her. Yeah, basically what happens is that Mayless is cursed. You find out after this event happens, a few more things happen, and it seems that she's been cursed by a goddess. Someone has gone in and decided to curse her for whatever reason. And so her and her best friend and her cousin, they set up and work together to try to figure out who cursed her and how to undo the curse. And we have this other Lady Georgiana, the Duke, in the background there as well. I found the pacing to be so strange because things were solved way too quickly. I don't know if this counts as a spoiler or not, but basically they figure out who put the curse on her like halfway through the book. And that's the only thing it tells you that happens on the back. Like you think that that's going to be the whole book, but it's solved in the middle. And then there's a different thing that happens, and then that's solved. And then we got to the end and like another thing was brought up. There was another big issue. And I was like, oh, is there a second book? There has to be a second book. We have 20 pages left of this book. And we've just been given a new problem that's going to take ages to solve. So there has to be a second book. Looked it up. I saw there was a second book. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Second book, fine. But then it was solved by the end. And it turns out the second book is about someone else. It's like not connected to this one. And I just found it really strange. Like, I mean, a lot got done, a lot happened, but I feel like it could have been done better with pacing. I feel like I was kind of misled a little, and like the pacing was just really odd. And I feel like we did too much and also not enough at the same time. But the two highlights of this book to me was, firstly, Maylis figuring out and coming to terms with the fact that she is a lesbian. I thought that was really great. I loved her friend Liz explaining to her like what attraction is and how she feels it with a man, and Maylis being like, that's not something that I've ever experienced, except for with women. And it was really interesting to watch her figure that out and put words to it and like realize what it was, and having the support of her friend as well. And the other highlight of the book was the friend Liz. Liz was the highlight of the book for me. I am obsessed with her. I adore her. She says the most outlandish, ridiculous shit. She was making me laugh so much. At one point, she's like holding up a teacup and reflecting the sun and saying she's trying to drink sunlight. And I'm just obsessed with her. I love her. I adore her. She was the highlight of this book. And I give this book also, I give it a 3.754, I think. It was quite good. I do recommend it, but the pacing was a bit weird. Next up, we have Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher, which is another non-binary author, which again, we love. This was a young adult. It was historical fiction, and it had a really good found family element. I love this book. I give this book 5 stars. It's my first 5-star of the month. It has everything that I love. It has found family, it has trauma, it's queer, it's third person, it's dual pov, like it ticks literally every single one of my boxes. And so obviously I loved it. I also liked the politics of the book as well. So like it literally has everything. Basically, this book is Robin Hood had a daughter, and then his daughter married a man with the last name Hartley, and then they had a daughter. And this Hartley man, Robin Hood's son-in-law, he became the leader of the Merry Men. Robin Hood at a point fell in love with a man, and they ran away to France together, and Captain Hartley stepped in and took over the Merry Men. He changed everything that they were. They went from being this group of people who went and did good deeds and like, you know, stole money for the poor and whatever, and turned it more into a fight for territory and control rather than actually being good people and doing good deeds. He became this leader that no one really asked for, but he, you know, took over like a dictator and named himself commander. And he also ruled over his daughter Mariel, and he promoted her to captain and gave her a captaincy, but she was constantly trying to prove to him that she was valid and like worthy of her position and like being in the Merry Men, and he constantly was just like not having a bar of it. Mariel was the head of her own group. The group that she had were all teenagers, and they were all so lovely. I'm obsessed with them. They were so sweet. And they at some point kidnapped a healer because her dad asked her to. And this healer, her name is Clem, she is happy all the time. She is yappy, she is chatty, she's like totally fine to be there, and she becomes a part of their little family, their little group, and it's really sweet to watch. Her attitude and like positivity as a captive really grates on Mariel, but the rest of them all love her, and she like fits in really well. It's such a back and forth and push and pull between these two because they're so opposite. Like Clem is so positive and go with the flow and wanting to make the best out of the situation, and Mariel is very stubborn, and just her entire life is she just wants to make her dad proud, and she like puts everything else to one side. She has all of her emotions behind a wall, and she's just like very set on one thing. But throughout this book, Clem starts to make her question things, and she starts questioning her father and her childhood and their values and what the Merry Men really actually are. anymore. Like Clem's joy starts rubbing off on her and they start forming their own sort of relationship, and it's really lovely to sort of see that happen and how they impact each other. And I thought this book was really fun. I had a lot of fun reading it. I really enjoyed the dilemma of like morals versus trauma and trying to overcome trauma in order to, you know, find and act upon your morals. Like parental trauma is such a massively difficult thing to work through and overcome, and I think that they did it in a really, really good way, and I really enjoyed reading that and watching that happen and watching, you know, people like come to terms with who they are and figure out what they believe in and like just move past trauma. I thought it was such a good conversation around morality and family and love and what all of that means, and also had a very good political messaging as well of like authority and doing good. Also like just a good conversation around like fascism and what that looks like and like not conforming and stuff. And I thought it was really fun, and I absolutely highly recommend it. It was so fun and sweet, and it had such good like found family. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked the pacing. I liked everything about it. I had a good time. Go check it out if you can. The next book I read was Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jayagirda. I feel like I totally did not pronounce that right, and I am so sorry. This book was recommended to me by a couple people in my comments, I think. This is not the type of book that I would normally read. It is a young adult book, but it's more like young adult, and it is set in high school and it is contemporary. None of those things are really things I typically read, but I think that it was a really important book. And this book, I wrote like 2 pages of notes on this book, so I maybe should not read all of those out. If you want to read my actual full, like all my thoughts and like this reading journal that I've written up, it is available on my Patreon. So if you want to actually read all my thoughts and not whatever randomly is coming out of my mouth and what I miss, it's over there. But anyway, Hani and Ishu are the only Bengali teens who attend their high school in Dublin. When Ishu first moved there, everyone tried to set them up together. They tried to make them friends and like get them to work together because they assumed that, you know, they're both of the same culture. They're both from the same place. So they must be friends. They must be exactly the same because everyone who's from the same place is obviously exactly the same. That pissed them off enough to just like not really ever interact. And you know what? Fair enough. A few years after they both are attending this high school together, Hani comes out as bi to her friends, and her friends don't believe her. They tease her about it and they say that she can't possibly know because she has never kissed a girl before. And so then Hani produces the lie that yes, she has kissed a girl. She actually has a girlfriend, and her girlfriend is Ishu. She obviously shouldn't have had to lie to her friends about this. This is not an excuse you should have to use. But now, you know, she said it now. So she goes and approaches Ishu and is like, hey, so I kind of said this. Do you want to pretend to be my girlfriend? And Ishu is initially like, not really, actually. But then Ishu decides she wants to be head girl and she needs more popularity and more votes, and Hani is kind of popular, so she was like, actually I could benefit from this too. So they come together, they set it up, and they decide to start fake dating to get Ishu more popularity and for Hani to convince her friends that she is actually bisexual and she didn't make it up. This book has a really good conversation around culture and identity and casual racism, which I think is really, really important, especially for the younger audience of whom is the target demographic. Hani and Ishu are both Bengali, obviously, but they are both very, very different. They come from very different family backgrounds, which have made them into very different people. Like, for example, Hani is Muslim and Ishu is not religious. And also, they both speak different languages. So, you know, straight away, big differences. And more specifically, Ishu is from a family where her parents immigrated when her and her sister were young in order to give them a better life, in order to, you know, allow them to have more opportunities to go to good schools and become doctors. They are expected to excel at school. They are expected to get top grades and to go to good universities and to become medical doctors with like really good pay and being like very successful. And right at the beginning, Nick, Ishu's older sister, she comes home from uni and tells her parents that she is taking time off uni in order to get married. And that does not go down very well. She is effectively disowned by her parents for that decision because it's like throwing all of their sacrifices in their faces. And so because of that, Ishu feels like she has to step up and fill that role, and she automatically puts so much more pressure on herself in order to try to be better than her sister, and she doesn't want to disappoint them because she feels as though they already are disappointed and she doesn't want to be more of a disappointment. You know, she wants to become head girl not because she wants to, but because she wants to tell her parents that she won't let them down. And alternatively, Hani comes from a mildly conservative Muslim family, but they are a family who just want her to be happy. They don't put any pressure on her. They accept her sexuality. They want her to do whatever it is that makes her happy. They don't want her to study too hard. They want her to go into a career that she enjoys and to just live life authentically as herself and not worry about these things. Like, they immigrated to Ireland for, you know, the better life purposes, but that to them also includes being able to choose and live freely and authentically. And so her parents support her in all of her decisions, big and small, and she has a very close bond with her mother, and they share everything and they talk with each other all the time, and it's a really lovely relationship that they have and that they display. So in this, Ishu spends a lot of time like by herself. All she does all the time is study, and she doesn't really have any friends, and she just commits all of her time to studying and being the best of the best to get into the best university. Alternatively, Hani has friends. She has two of her best friends who are very popular at school. However, these two friends are the fucking worst. They suck. They're the worst. I hate them. They don't understand Hani's culture, and they don't care to understand Hani's culture. They expect Hani to conform to them and their culture and what they want to do. They won't eat any of her like food. They won't eat any cultural food of any sort. They will like snicker if she like talks about prayer or anything, so she just like doesn't even mention it. They won't go anywhere that is halal at all because they think it's ridiculous. Like, they just expect Hani to like basically leave her culture and identity at the door and give it all up to be normal when she's with them. And they make her feel weird and wrong when she expresses her culture and who she is. And so she just keeps it all to herself and acts like it doesn't bother her and has convinced herself that that's okay and that that's normal. And they like don't understand the concept of culture and identity in that way, and they like don't even attempt to try, and instead like shame her for that. Then, you know, Ishu comes along and starts letting Hani be who she is and shows her that it is possible to be accepted for who you are. She is allowed to do the things that are important to her and her culture. She makes the effort to go to like halal places. She does all of this even though initially they aren't even friends, because it's like bare minimum basic respect of someone's identity and culture and religion, you know? I think that it's such an important message to be sending, because I think that like so many kids are not even aware that they are being racist or culturally insensitive. They genuinely do just think that, you know, the way they live their lives is what's normal, and it's not a big deal to expect people to do that. And there's like such lack of cultural understanding, and they truly just don't think it's important, and they like don't realize that what they're doing and saying is wrong. Like, this is a very easy read, which is so good, because I think that it is very beneficial for like white kids to read and have this understanding. And I think it's also really important for people of color and who, you know, feel separated from their culture to read and understand that it's okay, and to like learn to not let other people dictate who you are and how you express yourself. I think it's important to show that people within your culture, you are not the same. You are different. You have lots of differences, but you also understand each other. You know, it's like such a big conversation around cultural identity and being who you are and allowing yourself to be comfortable and like stand up for yourself. I just think that more kids should read books like this, and I'm really glad that it is a book that exists. Yeah, it's very much just like changing to please your parents versus changing to please your friends, and like realizing that you don't have to do either of those things, and you are allowed to make decisions that make you happy, and people will love you no matter what. And I just really enjoyed it. I give it a 4 because I enjoyed it, but it's like I'm not the target demographic, you know what I mean? But I do highly recommend it, and I think especially more like teenagers should read this, or people who aren't necessarily informed about a lot of culture and like casual racism, I think it's a really good and important read. Yeah, that's Honey and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating. I talked about this book for like 10 minutes because I didn't even read everything that I wrote. I have a lot of thoughts on it, obviously. The next book that I read is Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, another one by Lex Croucher. I don't have either of the Lex Croucher books because this one was lent to me by my partner. The other one my partner currently has, so I don't have either of them. But this one is another 5-star. I fucking loved this book. This is my favorite read of the month. Easy. This was so good. I had such a good time reading this book. It's the first time in a long time I picked up a book and literally could not put it down. I would have finished it in one go if I didn't have shit to do. I read it in 2 days. I think within like 24 hours. Like, it was so good. I was so fucking obsessed with it. The concept is generations have passed since the days of King Arthur, and now we are in Camelot many, many centuries later. Gwen is the princess of England, and she has been betrothed to Lord Arthur since they were born, because Arthur's dad helped her dad win a war. And there is a problem with it though. And the problem with their betrothal is that they fucking hate each other. They cannot stand each other, to the point where Arthur used to come stay in the palace when they were kids. And they got on each other's nerves so much and had each other so much that like Arthur was then he just didn't go to the palace anymore until now. I think she's 18, he's 20, or she's 17, he's 19. I don't know, around there. And they still can't stand each other. They don't really know anything about each other, but they fucking hate each other. And then one night, Gwen catches Arthur kissing a stable boy. So now she has some blackmail material. She can go and tell her dad, like, look what I saw. I can't marry him, get him the fuck away. But instead, Arthur goes and finds her journal and the fact that Gwen seems to be very in love with this knight named Bridget. She is the only female knight, and she has very incriminating evidence of being in love with her. So instead of hating each other and being at each other's throats and, you know, telling on each other, they decide to work together because obviously they can cover for each other. If they're pretending to be in love, they can go live their separate gay lives separately whilst covering for each other and pretending that they are madly in love. And it's a perfect plan, right? So now Gwen has the freedom to go and try to, you know, set something up with Bridget, although she is terrified of doing that. So Arthur puts in a little bit of a nudge, and Arthur gets to go do what he wants to do, which he realizes is he is in love with Gwen's brother. Whoopsies, he is in love with the future King of England. All this while, through all these dynamics, is Arthur's guard and best friend Sid. He is fawning over Gwen's handmaiden, and they're also absolutely ridiculous. All these characters are fucking ridiculous, and I'm obsessed with all of them. It has a really good healthy dose of parental trauma from Arthur, because his dad is the absolute fucking worst. Like, he has spent his entire life rebelling against his dad with Sid at his side, which is completely fair because, as I said, his dad is the fucking worst. And I love their friendship. I adore their friendship so much. This book has such good found family energy, and I love all of them. I adore every single one of these characters, and their dynamics and their energy and their friendship is my favorite thing ever in the world. Gwen and Gabe, I forgot to say that Gwen's brother is called Gabe, and they are best friends and they support each other through everything, and their relationship is also really beautiful, and I'm obsessed with both of them as well. There's just a lot of conversation around these people having like assumptions and also a lot of pressures, and it's just so good. It was such a good conversation and a good story with good morals, and also was just so much fun. It was so funny and entertaining and lovely, and I loved everything about it. This, I think, is my favorite read of the year. Like, I genuinely adore it so much, and it will be going on my reread shelf. Like, it is one I will come back to because I just genuinely am so obsessed with it. It has everything that I love in a book, and I cannot recommend it enough. Like, I genuinely, like, I recommend it. If you are watching this video, you should read this book. I fucking love this book. I want to read it again already. I missed them. It ended and I immediately wanted more. Like, there doesn't need to be a sequel, but I want there to be a sequel. Like, there is room for a sequel. There's potential for a sequel. They could easily get a second book out of it, and I want one so bad. I want one so bad. I fucking loved this book, and there is potential, and I want more. Next up, I read More Than a Best Friend by Emma R. Elbin. This is another historical fiction that was set in like Victorian England, and it is another romance, but also kind of like rom-com-y. And I also adored this book. This is another 5-star. I fucking really loved this book. Basically, it is Beth's first season out, and she needs to find a husband ASAP because her father died and they left her and her mother with nothing. So she has to get a husband in order to secure finances and a future where, you know, they're not out on the street and homeless, because of course women aren't allowed money. And at her first ball, she encounters Gwen, and they quickly become really, really close. Like, they really love each other's company, and they become like the best of friends so quickly. And together they come up with a plan. Neither one of them want to be married. They have absolutely no interest in being married. But obviously, unfortunately, Beth has to get married for financial security, obviously. But Gwen hatches a plan that instead they should get their parents together, because if their parents get married, they get her dad's money. And her dad has a lot of money. He is one of the like richest people in the town. And it should be easy because their parents have a history. They were sweethearts when they were young. And so they have something to work with. They have a foundation they can build off of. But during all of their scheming and their planning of trying to get their parents together, they get closer. They form a deeper bond and realize that maybe they like each other as more than just a best friend. This book was so fun. It was so fun and so lovely. And I was just really enjoying. I loved these characters. I loved everything that was going on. It was so well written and so well presented, and I just had so much fun reading it. And yet, still, halfway through this book, I had a fucking breakdown. I straight up just had to put the book down and just cry, because I was just thinking about society and like homophobia. Like, watching these women in Victorian England like fall in love and not be able to be together was so sad. Like, watching them realize that lesbians exist and then knowing that they would never be allowed to have that publicly, like, fucking sucked. And like the fact that this is still a thing, right? Like, they aren't allowed to be happy. They are viewed as property. Like, these women aren't allowed anything. They can't have their own money or their own land or anything. They have to have a husband in order to be viewed as people, and they don't want a husband. They aren't attracted to men. They don't want to date anyone. They want to be with each other, and they're not allowed to do that. And it like really fucking upset me. It really upset me, especially when I started thinking about the fact that it's still like this in a lot of places. Like, a lot of people aren't allowed to be out. Like, there's a lot of people who are forced to stay in the closet, and they like can't be in love, and they have to get married for financial security. Like, there are still so many instances of women being treated as property and like sold into marriages. And yeah, it was really, really upsetting. I just had a bit of a breakdown in the middle of the book. But you know, obviously it was really getting to my feelings, so the ending of this was also like, it was so lovely. I absolutely love the ending. It had me sobbing. The book was just, it was beautiful. It was fun. It got me sobbing. It got me laughing. I was so invested in all the characters. I really loved them. I was really invested in just all of it. And the epilogue of this book really beautifully sets up the next book, which I bought a couple days ago, and I had so many reading plans for the next few months, and I've bumped it up. I'm probably going to read it next because I'm so excited to read it, because I just fucking loved this book. Cannot recommend it enough. Again, you have to read this book. I had someone tell me that they didn't like want to suggest it because it's weird for you to like be dating someone who essentially is like you're trying to make become your stepsister. But like, if you met in adulthood and you did not meet under the like familial umbrella, like you were not introduced as here is your stepsister, there's literally nothing wrong with it. Like, it's totally fine. It's so chill. There's nothing incesty or weird about it at all. Like, sure, it's a little bit strange if your parents are together and you're together, but like shit just happened like that, you know? But it's fine. Anyway, 5 stars. Highly recommend. Fucking loved this book. After that one, my next read was Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron. This book was interesting, okay? So basically, it is 200 years after Cinderella died, and we are in Lille in Marseille, and it is ruled by this really horrible, terrible king who is just horrifically misogynistic. This town in which they live is horrible. He is living under the rules that were set by Prince Charming. What that means is that women are nothing. Women are objects, they are property. You attend a ball at 16, you get selected by a man, and then you have to get married to him, and he is the head of the household. Women have to be inside by 8:30. Women are treated like nothing. If you don't want your wife or your daughter anymore, you can give her up to the castle as a forfeit, and then you can just get remarried. Like, if you are beating your wife black and blue, doesn't matter. What happens in the safety of your own home is your business. It doesn't matter. You can do to women whatever the fuck you want. It's a bit fucked up, you know? And at 16, you're forced to go to these balls and like marry a man of any age. Men can attend the ball whenever they want. This girl, Sophia, she is the main character of this. She is in love with her best friend Erin, and they have been like kind of seeing each other for a while, and she wants to run away. Sophia wants to run away, and she wants to take Erin with her because she knows what's happening is wrong and she doesn't want any part of it. But Erin doesn't want to. She wants to stay and just live the way it is because she doesn't see any hope for leaving. She wants to make her parents proud and like not do anything that is going to upset them. And so that means attending these balls and getting married off no matter what it costs her. But then at the night of the ball, Sophia escapes. And this book follows Sophia in meeting this other young woman who is rebelling against this. They come together and they formulate this plan to free Lil and all of Masai from this terrible rule of this horrible king. But they know that it won't be enough to just kill him because, you know, these values are instilled. It's not just because it's being enforced by a king. It's like this is their entire society and what their society thrives on and revolves around. Like, killing a man does not change the mindset of people. You can get rid of the lawmaker. It doesn't get rid of the way people view things. And I think that that's such a good theme to explore, right? Like, no matter what you sort of do, there are always going to be these terrible men that view these terrible things and will like view women as property, and so many women who still view themselves that way because that's all they've been told their entire lives. Like, change happens slowly. You can't just do something and expect things to change like massively. You have to work at like teaching people and educating people and like helping people. This book explored so many themes, such as like obviously patriarchy and misogyny and how society controls what we believe. There was a big part of, you know, media manipulation. Like, all these girls, they all grow up reading the Cinderella story like the fucking Bible, and they have to live their lives following the Cinderella story. Like, Cinderella is their savior. She's like their Jesus. But it's all been twisted by Prince Charming, by the king. It's all been made, the story has been written in a way that allows the king to make these rules. It has been changed and modified so that it fits the society that the person who wrote the book wants to build. And you know that Cinderella would be horrified and disgusted by the way people are using her name and her image, because this is not what she stood for. It is not what she wanted. It's just what the people around her used her for. And I think that that's a really good commentary on religion. And it talks a lot about like tradition and fascism and how easy it is to manipulate people. How like if you make changes little by little, people won't even notice how extreme they are by the end. It's just really interesting to sort of get a look into how society can change and how you end up in places of like fascism and with like really strict, strong rules, because they started off as being like, we're doing it to protect people, but you end up with something that is so anti those people, but they've told you time and time over that it's for protection, that everyone just kind of believes it. I think that this like really, really well obviously reflects the state of the world and like politics and the patriarchy, etc. And I thought it was really interesting, and I think a really good concept. And again, like, I personally found the pacing a little bit off, and I think that a bit more could have been done. However, I recognize that I am not really the target audience. I think that this book would be perfect for young teens and people who need like an introduction to this sort of worldview. I think the perfect demographic for this book is like high school students. I think it's a really good book for like 13, 14-year-olds to be reading and dissecting and like looking into. I think it's perfect like base level entry to this sort of thinking and worldview. It's such an important story, but like obviously I already have an understanding of this. I already view society in this way. I know all of this, but a lot of people don't, and a lot of people I think would really benefit from having this and using it to reflect on the state of our world, because it does reflect so well, and I think that it's perfect for that. I personally rated it a 3.5, I believe, but I think that although I rated a 3.5, I think that it is like 5-star worthy for a lot of people. And I think that even though I don't recommend it to people my own age with my own knowledge and like understanding of the world, like I think that it would be really good for like younger people and even people my age who just haven't really thought about society in this way. I did also think the ending was a little bit rushed though, actually. I think that the ending needed to be a little bit more fleshed out. I think that it could have been done a little bit better. I feel like it contradicted itself a little bit in terms of like change and enforcing change. I think it could have benefited from an extra chapter. However, I will read you the last 3 lines of the book because I think it really emphasizes the importance of this book for young people. Do not be silent, raise your voice, be a light in the dark. And I think that that's so good and so powerful, and I really want more teens to read this book. I finished this book a couple days ago. I'm filming this on the 31st of May. So I finished this on the 29th. So that meant I had 2 days left of May. I can't read a book in 2 days, especially because my mom is visiting right now, so I'm being kept quite busy. So I decided to go for some novellas instead, which I never read novellas ever, so I thought it would be fun. And the first one I decided to read obviously had to be Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu, which is a classic. It was written in 1876, I think. I don't usually read classics. That's not really for me, typically. This is only the second classic I've ever read. The other one was Dorian Gray. But it was only 100 pages, and I was able to just dedicate a morning and an afternoon to it and get through it quite quickly. For a classic, I found it really easy to read, which I was really grateful for. I was drawn in and just read it kind of all in one go and found it really easy to read, which I was surprised about. This book is known as the middle child of influential iconic vampire books. So first you had vampire and then you had Dracula, but this book was published 25 years before Dracula and is actually the story that inspired Dracula. And it's also sapphic. A lesbian vampire book written in the 1800s is phenomenal. I wasn't anticipating that. You'd think I would have heard about it, but I don't know much about classics. So I was happy to find this out and to get it and to read it. Obviously it's only 100 pages long, so I can't really say that much because I spoiler, but also this book is 150 years old. So maybe get over it, But I'll try my best. Basically, Laura lives with her father and these 2 women who are caretakers who look after her and who have looked after her for her whole life in a castle in the Styrian woods. There are no towns or villages or anything for miles, so she lives quite a lonely life. She doesn't really have any friends. It's just her and the people who work at her house. So when a young woman and a mother get into trouble nearby, they go and help her out. This young woman, Carmilla, her mother asks if it's okay to leave her daughter with them for a bit, and they gladly take her in because Laura would love a friend. She is lonely and she wants nothing more than to have a companion. So her father is yes, of course, we will look after her. We won't let any harm come to her until you come and collect her. And so Carmilla starts living with them and Laura becomes kind of infatuated by her. She is talking about how beautiful she is and how much she just loves her company. They start becoming really close and they're all touchy and they will kiss and they are just, they're really close and infatuated by one another. And it is mentioned that Laura is attracted to her and she feels that way about her. So there's a lot of that lesbian infatuation that is in this story. During the time that Carmilla is staying with her, people in the surrounding areas start getting these random fevers and dropping dead out of nowhere. And also Laura starts seeing weird things in the night, and there's just a lot of weird sort of stuff going on that they can't really put their fingers on and figure out what is really happening. And then one of her father's close friends comes into town and starts telling these stories that seem like they shouldn't be real. They shouldn't be happening and it doesn't really make any sense. But Laura is kind of shocked and concerned by how much it reflects her current situation. And the familiarity of the stories that he is telling are kind of unbelievable and also making less sense and more sense at the same time as they're being told. That's kind of all I'll tell you in order to not really spoil it, even though you can kind of guess the entire narrative just based off of knowing what vampires are and the fact it's so short. But I was so astounded by the fact that there was a lesbian book written at this period of time, and the fact that this is the story that inspired Dracula I think is really, really cool. This book must have been a massive deal for especially queer women at the time, and it's really cool that it existed, and I'm very glad that I decided to read it. I wouldn't say that it's my favorite book ever, but it's really good to have read. I'm really glad that I read it. It's one of those ones where it's like, I wouldn't read it if it was written today. You know what I mean? Like, it only works because of when it was written. If it was written today, it would be kind of like boring, you know? Like, it's one of those ones where it's like, for the time it makes sense, but like for now it wouldn't. I would absolutely recommend reading it if you haven't read it already, because I think that it's like an important piece of historical work to read, and it's really quick and easy to read. It's also really cheap if you get it like on Kindle. It was like £1. So yeah, I recommend. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was kind of perfect for what I needed. Finally, we move on to today. Today is the 31st of May. I found another novella that I wanted to read and get finished before I filmed this video, but unfortunately I did only make it halfway through because I just like could not like focus on it entirely. But basically how I found this was I was looking through a list on Goodreads of sapphic novellas, and I found this one called No Man's Land by A.J. Fitzwater, and I was immediately drawn to it because it is about New Zealand. It is set in Aotearoa in Otago, and it's like women during the Second World War who were going to farms to do farm work while all the men were away. And it's like based off of this like queer feminist piece of history that's kind of been forgotten. So they took it and like kind of wrote this like story around it and incorporated some magic, some whaiwhaia, which is the Māori word for witchcraft, into this story. And I'm finding the concept really, really interesting. Like, firstly, it's really interesting to read a book based in New Zealand because I like can see it. I like know the environment and what it looks like, and like I'm noticing the language that is used is very familiar to me, and realizing how I never see that in books has been really interesting. I find the concept of it really intriguing, and I think it does a really good job talking about identity and like romance and like being queer and like realizing that, and then comparing that to the magic that they have and trying to come to terms with that. It's got a very good found family foundation that they're working on right now, and I feel like there's a lot of like, not everyone's going to accept you, but there will always be people who love you. It's like figuring yourself out, wearing your own skin. I think there's a lot of really good interweaving between like, yeah, the magic and the morals and the identity and like queerness, and all of that is tied in really nicely. And it's also really nice to read a Kiwi book as well, because I don't ever do that. I do find the one thing I don't like about it though is that it's a bit confusing at times. Like, they kind of end up places and I don't know how they got there or why they're there. There's conversations that start happening and I don't know who they're talking to. I'm just finding it a little bit hard to follow at times, which is why I think I couldn't finish it this morning. I definitely will be finishing it tonight, but yeah, I'm finding it enjoyable but also a bit confusing. I really like the concept and the story, but I feel like the writing could have been done slightly better, but that also could just be like a personal thing, or maybe I'm just tired and I missed pieces of information. That was all the books that I read in May, all of my sapphic books. I hope that having notes kind of made this more easy to watch, and that you actually took something away from it instead of me just sitting here being like, I don't remember. I'm really enjoying making this content, and I know that it is not at all the content that I normally make. I know it's not the content that most people on this channel even are subscribed to me for, but I am really enjoying making it. It is such a nice break from my normal content, which can be so emotionally heavy and exhausting. And I really enjoy reading, and I really love talking about that and sharing that. And like doing this challenge was like really fun, and I think I'm gonna do more of these later on. I might do a month of reading like trans books too, and then just sharing that with you and having these conversations. I had like such a good month reading these books, and I really hope that you enjoyed listening to me talk about them. And I would love more sapphic recommendations down in the comments. And also, as I said, I want to do a month of this with trans books later too, so please do leave comments of any trans books that you recommend to me as well. But yeah, as I said, I'm really enjoying making this content, and if you enjoy it too, please do not forget to like subscribe, leave a like, comment down below, maybe share it with your friends, whatever. Obviously, since I'm uploading it here and it's not what people are typically here for, it's not being put in the algorithm like at all. It's not why people are here. It's fine. I changed up my content so much this year, but I would love to be able to make more of this. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll be back sometime with another book video. We'll see what I end up coming back with to talk to you about. I'm thinking of doing some like reading vlogs of like my favorite books and stuff. So we'll see what there is. Let me know if you have any suggestions, any recommendations of what you want to see from me here, what sort of book stuff you want to see, or even other stuff. If you want me to do some other stuff, let me know and I would love to hear about it. Have a good day and I will see you next time. Bye.